Welcome to the NexGen HealthTech Podcast, the space where we explore what's actually working in digital healthcare, from AI in hospitals, real-world patient monitoring, and beyond the buzzwords. So this is about learning from those shaping the future of care. Today I'm joined by someone who is no stranger to the evolving landscape of the Nordic HealthTech region, Magnus Lejelov. He wears multiple hats. He's currently the head of sales at Pelago Bioscience, CEO of Lejelov Life Science Consulting, and board member at Health Media. So he also hosts, by the way, two prominent podcasts focused on digital healthcare, giving him a front row seat to the trends, challenges, and breakthroughs in the Nordics and beyond. Magnus, welcome. Thank you very much for joining in. Welcome to the show. Great to have you here. Maybe if you'd like to have a few words from your side, a quick introduction so people get to know you, what you're up to, what's happening in the Nordic region. Would be great to hear a few words over there.
Wow, that was a big introduction without that. No, but I mean, as you said, I'm head of sales at Pelago Pelago Bioscience, which is my main role definitely. That's what I do from a day-to-day basis, working with early drug discovery and trying to help companies find their targets earlier than they usually do. So that's an interesting area, definitely. On the side, or the last 5 years, I've been hosting a couple of podcasts, which is more of a hobby from my side, but also a way of staying up to date within especially the Nordic ecosystem when it comes to both digital but also analog health and health steering of the healthcare system. And as you know, podcast is a very good media for having those kind of discussions and thinking about today and about the future and being able to yeah, both discuss but also put your head around the big questions, and the big questions can be both big and small, but as long as they concern you, they are of interest. I'm also a dad of two teenagers that plays a lot of football and ice hockey, so that's to be fair, one of my biggest interests as well.
Great to hear. Yeah, as a dad, I can imagine handling those two topics is not an easy task. So,
No, it's not easy, but I mean, as a lot of things in life, as long as it's fun, it's always things that you want to do. And it's like digital care and the digital ecosystem. That's one of the most interesting things that I know. But it's not as interesting as seeing your 16-year-old play ice hockey or your 15-year-old play football, because that's on top of my list.
absolutely, yes. I completely agree on this part. When you mentioned this, I would say broad view of things. You've had a very broad view of the digital healthcare system through your consulting, through your work and your podcasting. From what you've seen so far, what stands out maybe as like innovations or models that do work in the Nordic region, for example, that maybe other markets should pay more attention to or get an example from? For just if you can share something in this direction, would be great to hear.
Now it will be a long answer. The Nordic regions, to a lot of people, it seems like a very homogeneous region, and we feel like we are the same, but still we are not. So we are very good in different ways. Finland is right now, I say, one of the leaders when it comes to health data and how they manage health data, which I think would be one of the big bits to the puzzle going forward when it comes to the digital ecosystem. All of the Nordics are very mature when it comes to the utilization of digital tools, especially in the spare time. But I think, I mean, the knowledge and the usage of digital tools among the population is very high. A lot of people, it doesn't matter what age, it's from they are born until they are very old, the usage is high, and that makes the system easier to work within. So I mean, it's easier to test tools in the population if it's mature when it comes to utilizing technology. There's one when it comes to the digital life, the countries are, as I said, kind of different. But if you would compare it to the rest of the world, I would say the maturity is one thing. The use of pilots and testing out solution is another thing. We are not always the best at implementing it on a broad scale, but we're very good at doing the pilots and trying things out. And then the broader expansion might be in other countries, but it's very much a test bed for different solutions. It's also kind of a healthy population to a large extent, where people have a good health literacy, and which makes it easier to work with solutions like solutions for prevention, etc. Which is, I would say, a big part of the digital landscape. And it's also we have the government agencies that really tries to make way for things. I wouldn't say they always do the right things, but at least they try to to have both the ecosystem, but I mean, and the infrastructure ready for it, but also make it kind of at least intuitive for companies to try to work with different solutions in the in the way. And then we of course we have this social security system where we try to help everybody, and a lot of the healthcare is paid from the government, which makes, if you can introduce a solution that the society feels is beneficial, then it's easier to be, I mean, to make the healthcare more equal when it comes to digital tools as well. That was the longest answer, and I just took it. There
Oh, but
was
it's really
so many
interesting.
things in it.
Yes, yes, really interesting. And I really like what you said about like the integration within the population. So I'm guessing that even from an earlier stage, like kids, teenagers, they're getting introduced to like different types of, I don't know, maybe lifestyle tracking solutions or something that they could, if they have some kind of a predisposition to certain, let's say, disease or something like a chronic condition, maybe you have some kind of like digital tools in place within like hospitals and aftercare that's basically introduce even from an early stage these digital tools. So I guess that would make the process a lot easier to adapt to them in the future as well.
Absolutely, and I would say this is the best test group for these kind of solutions. The fact, I mean, they are born with an iPhone in their hand.
Yeah. Yes.
It's not the best thing. I
Yeah.
would like them to have a book as well, but it's at least when it comes to trying digital solutions out, I would say that's an interesting area, and it's also an area where from an historical perspective, we try to push different tools and say, this is the tool that we would like you to use. But when we test that out and say to the kids, take whatever tool you like. This is the one that we recommend. Usually the kids takes different tools that they have recommendations from other parts around the society, for like influencers within their disease or friends, etc. So I would say the challenge here is to make as many solutions as possible, as good as possible, and to be able to analyze data that comes from different parts of or from different solutions, because that the interest and are there from the kids, and the kids with diseases is definitely something. But then you need to be able to, as a system, take care of that. Because right now, I mean, I'm generating a lot of data, but data that the healthcare system doesn't really want, because they don't really know what to do with it. They will with a good AI solution going forward, but right now it's more, if I'm interested in my data, I can do a lot with it. But the healthcare system is more keen on using the data that's produced within the system, and I can understand that from a legal perspective.
So one thing that I wanted to mention, like, because you mentioned about like, the early stages, and this got me thinking about what you guys are doing over at Pelago Bioscience. So basically, like the intersection in between biotech, bioscience, early clinical research. So how does digital innovation and what kind of a role does it play there, for example?
It's a really interesting area. I mean, we don't we work with a wet lab solution where we create a lot of data for our customers, but also in our internal projects. We are like then and data is definitely the key going forward. So if you would put an AI on our solution, that will really be. I mean, you could really do a lot of beneficial things with the data that we have. But right now, I would say we're in the middle of an era where the traditional tools and the digital tools are, in some ways, one of them are better than the other. But right now, they are the best together, which makes it interesting. That goes for a lot of areas, I would say. I mean, we still believe a lot in the old solutions. We understand that adding digital aspects of it, and especially AI tools. That's a nerdy word. Absolutely. I mean, it says a lot, but or says nothing. But adding machine learning and being able to analyzing a lot of data, that will add value to a lot of the solutions. But I would say, as of now, the combination of tools is really the best. If we trust the tools enough. So we're in a paradigm shift, which I think is interesting. And we from Pelago, of course, look, okay, how can we do this together with customers, but also together with partners, and what can we do to make the work that we do, that I think is I mean, both unique but also very beneficial for a lot of people and a lot of drug candidates. How can we make that even more faster, but also more correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm guessing here data again plays a huge role, like you mentioned earlier. Absolutely. And I think on a global scale, from what I'm seeing, is exactly what you mentioned. A lot of companies, organizations, governments, etc., they don't know what to do with the data. And a lot of the time the data is either misinterpreted, there's either a lot of faults in the data, so it's hard to find where the faults started from, how to fix them. So like I would say that from my perspective, I think this is one big issue that we still need to kind of figure out how to handle it. And there's needs to be maybe a more uniform way of handling this data in a way within healthcare systems, governments, and also private companies which are developing these types of like solutions, etc. Because I think that that gap between how this data is being used and interpreted is causing a lot of, I would say, misinterpretations, faulty signals in a lot of places.
Yeah.
But also it's kind of misleading, I think, the development for future cases. Because if you have faulty data and you're trying to develop, let's say, something new, something innovative, if you have faulty data, then the innovation is kind of faulty itself when you're trying to build it from scratch, let's say. So I think that this is a key area that we still need to work a lot on.
Absolutely. I totally agree that we mean shit in, shit out will always make it hard for these kind of systems. I would say we are now, we can go two different directions. Right now we're standing where we need to have structured data that we really trust. That's the only data that we can use. And that's definitely, I mean, where we are right now, that's a good way. Going forward, I would say hopefully we can say that, okay, this data is not, as you said, faulty data. That's not a good thing, but data that's lacking a lot of information. That could be a bit of the information puzzle if you combine it with other data. We're looking at different machine learning models that can take in different sources. If you can combine them, then maybe you can have this data with a lot of gaps, making a lot of sense. If you dare to combine as much data as possible from different sources, even though the data is not fully accurate, but if you combine them with other things, you will get a more accurate answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And here one question, as we mentioned in the beginning, that you're also a board member at Health Media.
Yeah.
How do you think, and how important is media in influencing both patient behavior, usage of such technology, and system innovation and integration in systems? Where does media play a role in communicating, for example, hey, this solution can be beneficial to you, this is how you can use it. So how important is media within this integration and influencing people to adopt digital innovation in their lives, and also in, let's say, hospitals and healthcare systems?
That's also a broad question. There's a lot of good broad questions here. No, but I would say, as I mentioned, health literacy earlier on, I think that's a very important thing, that we try to educate the population in as good way as possible so that we can make healthcare more equal. Because right now, the biggest prediction on your health is what university degree you have or what your parents work with, and that's, I mean, as a society, that's not at all what we would like, how we would like it to be. We would like everybody to have the same chance, regardless of where they come from. And with that, of course, if you can unleash that power with helping people understanding. I mean, then media is a good way of actually trying to educate the population in as good way as possible. There, I think you have one of the big building blocks for that. With that said, if you work with media and work with trying to guide people, then utilizing data on what people need, and also where they get the information, etc., it's of course a key. So I would say we need all these building blocks. Then, of course, I mean, it's important that we have the right kind of information and information that is not biased. And that one comes, I mean, it's often better if it comes from a university or from I mean, more of a neutral government. But I don't think that's contradictory to working with trying to increase the knowledge in the population.
Absolutely.
I mean, collaborations between different actors, for example, universities and companies working with media, that would be interesting to see if we can get the health literacy up a level.
Yeah, in this case, there are, for example, some startup companies and some companies in digital healthcare that I've noticed in my work, basically. For example, there was one in the US where they do these types of digital panels in hospitals, and they're integrated with specific ways to represent medical data so that it's easy to interpret for patients, for example, so it can better influence their decision making when they're deciding whether they should take a vaccine or take some kind of medication for some kind of pre-diagnosis, etc., etc. And basically, they based these panels and the information that they place within the hospitals with a research team, which analyzes data and researches patient behavior with AI and how people interact with certain, of course, in this case, communication channels while reading through them, infographics, etc. And they basically draft these types of panels to help patients better understand certain conditions, how to, let's say, do predictive care or aftercare for certain conditions, or influence, like I mentioned, their decision making for, let's say, taking a certain medication or vaccines, etc., etc. So they can make a more educated decision at the end of the day, which I think is something that in the past we didn't have. In the past, it was more like, you're getting this vaccine, yes, and that's it. You have to write it in a book that you got it. But now you have more, I would say, freedom with this type of digital innovation and these types of various solutions coming in. You're getting more informed. So I think, yeah, like you mentioned, being informed is really important. So I think this plays a huge role.
Yeah. And first of all, if you have the question, take a vaccine or not, always take the vaccine, because vaccines are as clean water. It's the foundation for our healthcare. So, but I agree. When taking decision on where you can have two different paths, that's of course, I mean, as much information as possible. It sounds like a good solution that I hope we can, I mean, not only have for certain hospitals, but try to make a broad scale up of it, and also make it as neutral as possible. Because that's, I mean, that's always the problem when with this kind of solutions, that we need to look into who is the sender of the message, and usually the message is exactly the same, whether it comes from a pharmaceutical company or from a government or something. I mean, usually we all want the same kind of things. It's more how we tweak it, but also it's important that we do this together and see that, okay, we could say the same things. Okay, if we can do that, then let's do that together.
Absolutely. And you know, one of the big buzzwords, because we mentioned also the word buzzword before.
I love buzzwords. What's the buzzword now?
AI. How do you think AI is going to keep transforming the digital healthcare landscape? I mean, we've seen examples from it being used in various different cases. We have like predictive analysis for certain diseases. And now AI is being integrated even to these types of solutions, which help to aid doctors with their time efficiency, documentation, electronic records, various cases. But how, from your talks, for example, in your view, from what you've had as discussions with people in the digital healthcare sector in the Nordic region, how do you view AI shaping the digital healthcare landscape within the next couple of years?
I mean, first of all, it will definitely shape. It's already shaping as we speak. We need to be not just aware of that, but understand that some things it can do. It's talking about, but some things AI can do here and now, and we should just use the benefit of that, like digital electronic medical records or the planning of how the healthcare staff should work, for example. Those are kind of low-hanging fruits that have no real ethical barrier. Then we, of course, have the next step, where I really think AI could do a lot of good things, or digital tools, and together with a lot of good data. But then we also have I mean, it's when we can help taking good decisions on both preventive care, but also on care and taking decisions on what pharmaceutical you are to use, or whatever regime you are to help treating a patient, or how can we find patients that are in need of different things. But then you need to be much better at explaining, okay, this black box that sometimes the AI consists of, what's in it, and how can we, I mean, some parts of it we will never understand, but we need to be as transparent as possible to actually trust it as a system. Because it's like self-driving cars. Who will take the responsibility of anything going wrong? And in this case, we are playing with lives, and that's not. I mean, we need to be certain that we actually helps more than we do harm. And to a large extent, I mean, if you look at X-rays, there we are already working with AI right now because we see that okay, this is beneficial for the patient, and this is better than a human radiologist at trying to interpret different X-rays. This will happen for everything, but we will just we need to balance the ethics, and we need to be brave when it comes to taking these kind of decisions.
Absolutely. And this reminds me going back way back into human history, whenever something was invented, people got scared of it. They were doubting it. They said this will never work. This is impossible. But yet we always take this giant leap in human history from time to time, like inventing electricity, etc. So I think that AI is just the next big leap. It's just that our generation is in it and we're already kind of technologically involved. And now it's about, whoever goes through this leap can really make really big advancements. Of course, it always comes with a backlash and challenges, but we need to look on the way forward with caution, of course.
But in this case, I totally agree with you. It's one of these giant leaps. But this is a leap where we, as humans and outside of the healthcare system and outside of other systems, are using it a lot. I mean, you and I are not afraid. We might not be the best representatives for this, but we are not afraid of using it in our daily life, using it to take a lot of decisions when driving or purchasing things or whatever we do. We use AI all the time. But when it comes to our lives and our kids and the elderly, then we are, of course, for a good reason, more cautious. But we should really we really need to understand, like, when does this give us value, and how can we make sure that we as you said, we are in a paradigm shift when it comes to how we utilize and analyze data. Okay, we need to do this for patients as well. Taking one of the examples that I think where we really should find something is finding lung cancer earlier on. That's a disease where if you treat it earlier on, patients will benefit a lot from it. If I would give access to all the information that I have around me, things that everything I have on my phone, for example, how I move, what kind of search patterns I have for different kind of, when it comes to lung diseases, or and all my electronic medical records, including, for example, pharmaceuticals. If I would put that together, I think the system, if you have a good AI tool, that would be better at predicting if I'm on my way of getting something that changes, for example, towards lung cancer, than the system today would be without digital tools. And then I'm happy to share everything. I'm one of those sharers, so I could share. I mean, how much liquor I buy, or what food I buy, or how much I move, because I think that would benefit myself. I don't want all the world to see what I do, but I want the healthcare to see what I do, so that they can actually find me earlier on. And that, I think, right now is, we are so afraid of sharing data. We are not afraid at all of sharing data when it comes to, for example, what we buy and where we are driving, but we are afraid of sharing data regarding ourselves, which I, to some extent, can understand. But I would like to share it if that can help me live longer and live happier.
I can completely agree with you on this part, because from what I've seen in my personal experience, I've done it probably as well a couple of times when I was younger. But when people go to the doctor, a lot of the times you're more scared to say exactly what you do and how you live sometimes, because you're afraid of the backlash.
Exactly.
But that's exactly where there's that gap that I think that AI, for example, can cover, because you can mention everything over there: what you do, how you eat, how much you exercise, what are your habits, what are your bad habits, and then it can analyze all that and give you some kind of predictive analysis. But getting it a level even higher than that would be integrating it, for example, with blood work, with biomarkers, and analyzing all this data. It can really give you a predictive analysis, for example. Even if you're not on the onset for something serious later on, if you're living, let's say, a healthy lifestyle, you can, by analyzing this data, you can continue living it, and you can even, optimize your, let's say, your nutrition, for example, if, let's say, you're not eating enough vitamins, I don't know. So these are all examples that I think are really good in terms of like how it can help. So what would you say as a closing remark to our talk? What would be your message to even the younger generation out there? You mentioned you have two teenagers. So what would you say to the younger generation out there? What would be your message in terms of how people can, integrate these types of solutions in their even daily life, and how to look at innovation and AI in the future. What would you say to them if you could?
But it's interesting because this is, I mean, I would like to say to our generation, to my generation, be brave, use whatever you have, try to use as much data with cautious, of course, but I mean, but try to use it and try to explore. And to the younger generation, I would say, use it I mean, you're probably using it too much right now. Try to use it in a good way for the right things. Try to criticize the source of the information. And also try to use it for the right things. Use your brain in some ways and use AI in other ways. So it's very. I think we are in this era right now where some people are overusing it and some are underusing it. We need to find the right level. Everybody should not use it. I mean, at the same pace or for the same things. But that's at least something that we need to be personalized in the way that we use data. But if I would talk to government officials, I would say be brave at making laws and interpreting laws in a way that actually suits the inhabitants, rather than try to say no to everything.
Yeah, great remark. I completely agree, especially with the last part. Great. Magnus, thank you very much for joining in. It was a great discussion. Happy to have one more somewhere down the road in the future as well. And talk about some different topics as well. So thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
Wish you a great day ahead, and thank you guys for joining in again to the podcast, and see you next time on the next episode.
See you. Thank you.